What is Chabad? Aside from the good food, obviously. Does anybody know what the name Chabad means? Go on.
Acronym.
Good. Acronym for? Very good. So Chabad is an acronym, Chachma Bina Das, which means, I would say that perhaps the best English word for each of those is conception or inspiration, comprehension, and connection. And it's talking about in our minds, connecting with ideas, connecting with information. The name, and the rabbi actually mentioned before that, he's a big fan of Google. Google is amazing. Google kind of gets the point of Chabad to a degree, but they didn't go all the way. Google completely revolutionized the modern human experience more than almost anything else. What did Google recognize? Google recognized, and then decided to capitalize on that, the power of information. There's basically, there are many things in life that are influential, many things that are powerful, many things that can be very useful, but there's not much that's ultimately more powerful and more influential than information. And Google got that, and they decided to capitalize on that and to categorize basically all the information that's available and to sort of be the primary vendor of information. But there was a certain degree to which I would say perhaps they fall short, but a degree to which Chabad takes it further. Right, so Chabad actually has two names, Chabad Lubavitch. Lubavitch is the name of a town in White Russia. Ukraine. I stand corrected.
White Russia, but okay.
I'm staying out of the politics. It's a town somewhere where the leaders of the Chabad movement basically were situated for the majority of the history of the movement, and that's why it's called Lubavitch. Right? You have all different Hasidic sects or communities, and they're named after the towns they came from. Vizhnich and Square and Belz and Satmar, they're all named after towns. But we have this name Lubavitch, there's a second name Chabad. The reason that the Lubavitch community, the Lubavitch movement has a second name Chabad is because it's not just the customs that we have. And you walk down the street and you go to a place like Borough Park or Williamsburg where there are lots of different groups of Hasidim, and every 2 blocks you see the ribbon on the socks changes, or the ribbon on the hat changes from the right to the left, and the bow's a little taller and the bow's a little shorter, and then you know which group it is. Why? Because they carry the customs from the town that they came from in Europe. And they carry the name of the town and they carry the customs. But what Lubavitch is about is not just the customs of the town. Lubavitch is about Chabad, which is why there's a second name, Chabad. It's called Chabad Hasidus, the Chabad Hasidic philosophy, perhaps. I don't love the word philosophy. It's not precise, but it's close enough. Chabad Hasidic philosophy. There's an idea, I don't like the word ideology either, but there is an ideology, a philosophy that we have, which is Chabad, which is that Chachma Bina Das, the power of the mind. And it's not, if you look at the difference between, the way that Chabad community and Chabad rabbis behave, and contrast it with the way the rest, let's call it the rest of the ultra-Orthodox world behaves, you wouldn't use the term academic or cerebral to describe what makes Chabad stand out from the rest of the ultra-Orthodox world. Right? If you contrast a Chabad rabbi with a Skver rabbi or a Satmar rabbi, you wouldn't say that the Chabad rabbi is this super academic and cerebral, at least in terms of that's what makes us stand out. So why is it that we call Chabad? Why is it that if, Chabad rabbis have a tendency to perhaps be a little bit unconventional in terms of behavior of a rabbi, and they'll dance and be lively and friendly. That's not academic. But what Google got right is that information is at the beginning of everything. Information has the power to drive and to empower. Chabad is about using information not just for business, not just for a hobby. Right? If you want to start a business, you want to start a hobby, you want to get into something, what's the first place you start? The information. You learn, you study, and chances are the more you study the landscape, the more you study the market, the more you study the equipment or the details of the hobby or the sport or whatever it is, the better you will succeed. Now, there's obviously a talent aspect as well. It doesn't mean that the person who studies the most will be the best. But for any given one of us, the more we study, the better we're going to be. That's the power of information. Now, it's not just, information doesn't just have the ability to power our skill, to power our achievement in business, to power our performance on the sports field. It has the ability to empower us and to drive an existential transformation, to empower and a deepening of our experience in a very, very unimaginably deep way. And the idea of Chabad, of the Chabad movement, is that if we study, if we learn, not just about the landscape of the world the way that it appears, the way that we see it, but also about the inner workings, about the mechanics, the physics of the spiritual layers that are beneath the surface, equally real. They're not physical, but they're equally real and equally as important. And if we learn about the workings, inner workings of the soul, of who we are, remember, we're half body and we're half soul. And there's the study of biology and of medicine, etc., which gives us invaluable information. And just off the cuff, I would say that we have to be very grateful to God and to science and the partnership between them and the fact that we have the technology we have today. Because chances are most of us wouldn't be here if not for that. Because we know about the body. As we know more and more about the body, we can make the body able to function better, to live longer and to live healthier. The more we know about the soul and the way that it works, the healthier we can keep our souls, the more effectively they can function. The more we know about the purpose of the world around us, of the dynamics and the mechanics of the spirituality that is the partner of the material world that we live in, the more we know about that and about our purpose, and about the way that we work as far as the soul is concerned, the better equipped we are to maximize our potential, to live up to who we are able to be who we were born to be, and to make the world what it was created to be. Information is power. And so, the founder of the Chabad movement, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, known as the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, the author of the Tanya, took this approach, and he wasn't the only leader of a Hasidic community at that point. There were many of them, but he stood up against them and took a different approach, and he said, I want every single one of us, every single one of you, every single Jew, to have the opportunity to have a self-awareness at the level of the soul, to understand not just who we are emotionally, which is a very important thing, a very important part of living a fulfilled life, is the human Homo sapiens emotional self-awareness, but to have self-awareness in terms of our soul as well, in terms of our purpose. When we know that we are divine deep down inside and that we have a little bit of God inside of us, that drives us to live in a completely different way. When we understand that we are infinitely capable because we're divine. And we understand that us expressing our inner divinity is the purpose for which the world exists. It exists for us to realize ourselves and to bring divinity, to bring purpose into the world, to realize the purpose of the universe and of ourselves, it changes everything. It changes our level of interest. It changes our level of interest just in getting out of bed in the morning, let alone being involved in Jewish life and in a Torah life. It changes our level of excitement and passion about life and about realizing our potential and living up to who we're able to be and who we're born to be. And every one of us is born to be something that's infinite. Now, each of our gifts are unique. I can't do the same thing that each of you can do, and each of us can do things that the others can't do. But within our own gifts and the specific gifts that we have and the specific purpose that we have, what we are able to contribute to each other, to the Jewish people and to the universe is infinite. And the Alter Rebbe said, the Baal HaTanya said, I want every person to be able to not just know that that's the case, because knowing about something isn't good enough. If someone has a bad health habit and they go to the doctor and the doctor lets them know, by the way, this habit is destructive to your health. If it's a habit, what are the chances of the person just dropping it because the doctor said it's bad for their health? Not that high. If the doctor sits them down and explains how it works, what happens when you do this behavior, exactly how does it impact your health, make it visual, make the person understand what's happening, it's going to give the person much, much more strength in fighting the habit because they visualize what's going on. They understand, if I engage in this habit, if I engage in this unhealthy behavior, this and this and this is going to happen, and it's going to have a real effect on my body and on my health and on my longevity. And so the Alter Rebbe said, I want every single person to have their own individual awareness. He wanted every one of us to be able to have our own, not just that the rabbi of the community has the awareness and he just tells us what to do. Obviously, you should do what the rabbi says, just saying. He wanted each of us to be able to understand and have our own individual self-awareness at the level of the soul and at the level of purpose and at the level of our potential. In order to have that, we have to learn about the same way that when a doctor wants a patient to have an awareness of the habit and how it works, they give them information. The Alter Rebbe said, I'm going to present mystical Judaism. I'm going to present the mystical parts of the Torah in a way that every single one of us can understand. In a way that we can use our Chabad, our minds, to change our perspective and the way we see things, not because the objective is an academic experience, but because that empowers us to revolutionize our life. It allows us to revolutionize our experience at an existential level, our sense of purpose, our sense of why we're here, our sense of what we can achieve, our sense of the purpose of the world around us, and the reason it's here and the reason we're here. And so Chabad, oftentimes the community might be described as Chabad Lubavitch, but Chabad, I would suggest, is the far more important of the two names. Because they could have been in a different town, and you know what? It wouldn't have made a difference. So we would have worn white socks instead and tucked our pants in like some of the other Chassidim do. Whoop-de-doo. Right? But Chabad is something which gives us literally infinite value. It gives us the ability to learn. When we learn the teachings of Chabad, when we learn, and it's like that, Kabbalah teaches about the inner workings, the dynamics of spirituality, etc. But it's very cryptic. It's almost impossible for just about anybody to understand. And that's, the Alter Rebbe came along and said, I'm going to make it something that every single person can use their Chabad, their Chochmah Ben Adas, use their mind to learn about and to understand and to empower themselves. He realized the power of information beyond what Google realized. Not just does it give you the ability to become the best in your field of interest because you have the information at your fingertips, and not just does it give you the ability to earn a lot of money if you own Google, it gives you the ability to completely transform your life experience at an existential level. And when we transform our own experience, that leads us to then transform the experiences of those around us and to transform the world. And that's Chabad.